If you are learning data analytics or data science, you might want to work on a real project to learn the skills, to show your skills to recruiters and hiring managers. And obviously, if you want to work on a project, you need some data to work with. And so here, 99% of people would go online. Maybe they have an idea of a project they want to work on, maybe on music data, maybe on sports data, maybe on finance or sales or marketing. And well, they go online and they search for a public data set that is available to download and analyze. You might have heard of websites where you can get these data sets that are ready to go, for example, Kaggle or even the US government website. And so the majority would go on these websites, find the data set downloaded on their laptop and basically start using it for their analysis. Now, that is a setup that is absolutely fine if you're a complete beginner. But if you want to go a bit more intermediate and advanced level, there is a major issue there. Because basically what these people are doing is using some data sets that someone else collected for them. Okay, maybe they can clean it even further, but pretty much most of it is ready to be used. And that is already on itself something completely different to what's happening in a real business scenario, where you as a data analyst or data scientist are responsible to actually go out there, collect the data, maybe from different systems, maybe even getting live data that is constantly updated, and actually trying to understand what's the format of data that is coming your way and finding out the best solution to make it clean and ready to be used and analyzed. And so my goal in this video is exactly showing you how you can recreate this setup that looks much closer to a real business scenario, and that will immediately make yourself as a standout candidate because, as I told you, the majority of people will not follow this setup, but they will just get some static data online. And by the way, if we never met before, I'm Lorenzo. I'm a data analytics lead with over 7 years of experience working at companies like Deloitte and AWS. And I'm also the founder of the Analytics and Automation Academy, which is a 6-week program where I teach you everything you need to know about data analytics and where I will support you all the way from the very start until you land a job. And so if you're interested of me helping you to land a job in data analytics, and you are sick and tired of these video courses where you are completely lost and by yourself, then definitely make sure to check out and apply to my Analytics and Automation Academy from the link in video description. And so if you're ready to get started, now we're gonna enter our coding environment and actually start using APIs to collect data ourselves from different sort of applications. And I will show you examples that you can use straight away for your projects. These, I think, are also pretty original ideas that you can start straight away, which, as I said, will immediately make you an intermediate or advanced user of data analytic techniques to collect your data, clean it up and making it ready for your reporting and analysis, making sure that you're responsible for the whole end-to-end data lifecycle instead of using a data set that is ready to use and someone else made available to you. So if that's interesting, make sure to follow until the end. Okay, so if you watched any of my previous videos, you know that I want to go to get very practical with the tutorials in the fastest and easiest way possible. And just so that we are on the same page, Google Colab is one of my favorite platforms to code. Why? Because it's all for free. You can do it from your browser. You just have to open Google Colab and basically you are all set and ready to go. And this is to me like the easiest way to get started coding with Python. And so what you see here in the screen is an example on the first way that we have to actually work with APIs. So again, just so that we are on the same page, what is an API is basically a way to connect to an application. We don't have to really worry about collecting data ourselves. We have to just connect to an application with already some data stored in that and basically create this sort of setup where we request data from this application and this data is then transferred into our environment. And so the easiest way to get this set up obviously depends on which kind of data we want to use for our project, is, for example, using a library in Python that has been created, for example, open source by the community, that is pretty much ready to go. We just have to install the library in our environment, and we can then start fetching data using that library. And so the first example that I wanted to show you here is actually related to finance data that we can use, again, for free using the API of Yahoo Finance and actually the library that someone created based on their platform. And so what I have here in the first line of code is I'm going to do pip install y finance. So I'm going to install the library. So let me run this piece of code here. And as you can see here, in just a few seconds, obviously in my case, requirement already satisfied because I already installed this library to create this tutorial. But yeah, just make sure that you have that installed in your environment. The second line of code is actually I'm going to import the packages that we're going to use from this library. So I'm going to use I'm going to import YFinance, and also I'm going to import pandas, and we call it YF and PD, which is kind of standard for these packages. So let me run this line here. And already here, we have the whole setup ready to go. So again, we're using this kind of package and library called YFinance to retrieve data and finance data from Yahoo Finance. Now, the important thing of working with a new library or a API is obviously understanding kind of the syntax that we need to use, because every single interface will have their own rules. And so the way to work with these tools is that you will find yourself opening some sort of documentation and checking what are the rules and practices for this type of exercise. And so what I've done here, I open this page here online that I found. So is explaining what is the YFinance library. Basically saying is a Python library that helps in accessing financial data from Yahoo Finance. And there is a bit of a tutorial here on, installing YFinance, which we've done. And basically, how kind of an example on how it works. So there is no standard ways of like coding and using APIs, but it's all related to that specific service that you use. So in this case, I've read a few lines here, and then I went back to my environment and then I tested it and see if it was working. So what I'm doing here, I'm creating a variable called Tesla, and I'm putting here the ticker of Tesla, which is TSLA. And then I created a new variable called Tesla stock. And I basically download from Yahoo Finance, from this library, I download the Tesla, which is the ticker here. And then I'm just going to print the result of the variable that I just created. And so let's run this code here. And this is basically kind of a confirmation that the data is coming through in the right format. So we have the dates, and we have the close, high, low, open, and volume for the Tesla stock. And so this is a basic example of getting data from this case, Yahoo Finance. And then obviously I can go a bit more advanced and adding more, let's say, details on this, because here, for example, I just downloaded all the data on Tesla, but then, for example, I can do a specific range for dates that I'm interested in. So, for example, I've added a start date and an end date in here. And so in here, I can run this piece of code, and we are just making sure that only the dates that we're interested in are added in the final result. And then basically from here, I have data that I can work with. And then I can start kind of visualizing in a different way, cleaning my data, and basically getting on with my project. So if you're interested in actually using finance data, you will see that this library allows you to then work with the balance sheet data. Again, balance sheet data for specific year, income statement of Tesla and other stocks that you have in the market. Again, income statement for specific year, and so much more things. So pretty interesting already to get started. Not with a static data that you have no control of, but actually using APIs and libraries to retrieve data from a website. Obviously, what I suggest as a next step is trying to visualize this data, because, if I check this table here, there is not much information that I can grasp just looking at it at a high level. But obviously, if I start visualizing data, that's a completely different story. And so we can use matplotlib and the pyplot library for creating visualization. And for example, I can visualize only the closing price of the Tesla stock. And so with these simple lines of code here, where I set the size of the figure, I set that I want to visualize the closing price. I set the title of the plot, the X label, the Y label, the legend, and then I want to show the chart. If I run this piece of code here, you will see a simple result, probably stuff that you see online whenever you check a stock of a company. This is a simple line chart showing the trend of Tesla stock over time. This is a very simple chart, and obviously we can go even more advanced with charts that look more professional. For example, if you use finance data and stock data, you probably know that candlestick charts are pretty common in the industry. And so again, you can download and use different libraries to get more advanced with your data visualizations. And by the way, if you want this coding file on yourself, because maybe you want to try it out on your side, then make sure to leave a comment in this video and I'll send it to you. But what I've done here is basically creating a setup for a candlestick chart, which in this case will look at open, high, low, and close. And then obviously a bit of a layout styling in here. And then if I run this code in here, this is going to take a bit of time to plot. But this is the end chart, which obviously looks a bit more professional and a bit more aligned with, let's say, a financial industry. We also added using this library a bit of interaction because then I can hover over a specific handle and see in the open, high, low, and close. Now, another way to use API using Python, and especially if you need some help working with the APIs, I definitely suggest using a platform that is called SERP API. Basically, SERP API provides a clean, structured search result data from Google, from YouTube, and many more. And the beauty of this platform is that they take care of the headaches of web scraping, such as solving CAPTCHAs, rotating proxies, and changing layouts, so you can focus on building your app or project. And by the way, they are sponsoring this video, and I choose to collaborate with them because it's definitely the easiest way for you to work with APIs and get real data for your project. And again, I don't want to be only theoretical here. Let's see a practical example. So let's do something very business oriented. So let's say that I want to perform a market analysis on cafes in London. And so in order to do that, I want to retrieve the full list of cafes in the city. And so for this one, you just have to create a free account in SERP API. You will see in your account the SERP API key. And now in our Python environment, what I'm going to do is, first of all, pip install SERP API. So I'm going to install the libraries. Then for this example, I actually want to get results from Google search. So I'm going to also install this other library here. Again, I already installed this thing, so that's why you see this message here. And again, I search the appropriate documentation on their website. And then I'm just going to set up the parameters that I'm interested in. So my query is going to be cafe in London, which is the location that I'm setting up. I'm going to search on google.com. I put here the variable for my API key. Obviously, I'm not going to show that in the screen, but I just created a variable to basically connect to my SERP API environment. And then I'm going to store all of the data that I retrieve using SERP API within this variable called results. So let me run this code here. And this is the final result. I have here basically the list of all the cafes in London. Now, you might have seen that this is a JSON format type of results that I get. So I definitely need to do a bit of a data cleaning and formatting into a table that I can then use for my analysis. And so this is exactly what I'm doing here using pandas. So I access the list of cafes dictionaries. From the list of dictionaries, I basically convert it into a data frame that I call df_cafes. And then because there are some nested columns in the result, I also have to flatten my data. And so bringing these nested columns into separate columns. I'm also going to rename some of the columns for clarity. And then if I run this piece of code here, and if I want to visualize the data frame that I created, this is pretty much what I'm getting. A lot of information like the name of the cafe, the exact address, the latitude and longitude, also like information about the cafes that we all find in Google. And now for our market analysis, this is actually very, very interesting data that we can use. And then now we can use this as a starting point to perform some cool analysis. And so what I might want to do in this part of market analysis of cafes in London is, for example, finding the average rating for all the cafes and visualize which cafes are performing above the average rating and which ones are actually below the average rating. I can visualize this data into a map and try to understand the locations where there is a bit of a market opportunities because maybe there are a lot of cafes with bad reviews. And so if we add there a cafes with a very high standard, high quality, then we might beat the competition. So if I run this code here, I don't care in this case to go into the details here, but I just want to show you the final result. I created a HTML page to visualize the final result, which is this one that I'm sharing with you in the screen. And so here I'm visualizing cafes based on my search. Obviously, I had to limit my search because I'm not getting all of the cafes in London, but I think we are getting around 20 or 50 cafes because that's kind of the limit that I set in the code. And then from here, I can see that, for example, there are areas in London where there is a lot of green dots. So it means that there are kind of good quality cafes. But for example, I can see that Southwest seems a region where there is a lot of red dots. And so there might be some kind of market opportunity there to create good cafes that is beating the competition around. Obviously, this is something basic that took me only a couple of minutes to build, but this is a clear example to build something pretty cool with APIs. And by the way, click the link in the description below or scan the QR code to create your free account with the SERP API and get access to 250 free credits immediately. So you can test the tool and try it out yourself. Another example that I can show you to use API to retrieve data from a specific application and use that data for your project, for your analysis, for your work is an example that is based on weather data, which is something else, another example that I find pretty interesting because obviously it's something that we can all understand and relate to. And so in this case, what I'm going to use is actually one of the main libraries for using APIs, which is the request that you see here in the screen. So what I'm doing in this line of code, I'm just importing these two libraries. So I'm going to import request and I'm going to all the time import pandas for data manipulation. And in this case, there is this website, OpenMeteo, that gives us data on weather and forecast. What we need to do here is actually selecting a specific page that we want to retrieve information from. So in my case, I'm interested in the forecast information. So that is how I define my URL variable, and I'm inputting this hyperlink here. And then as always, I have to set up my parameters. In this case, I just want to get some example data for Istanbul. So I found online the latitude and longitude of Istanbul. And here I'm going to define my response variable that is basically based on the URL and the parameters that I set. And then also I'm going to define data, which is basically based on the response that I'm going to get in a JSON format. And then I want to print the result in a formatted way. So let's run this line of code here and see the actual result. And so what I can see here, because I selected in my parameters current weather as true, I also get the current weather. And so what I want to show as a result is the temperature in degrees and also the wind speed. So that's the current temperature in Istanbul and also the current wind speed. And so again, super easy example to get actually live data without really having to worry about the data collection, because there is another platform, in this case, OpenMeteo, that collected all this weather information. And so I'm just connecting to OpenMeteo to get live data, in this case, around weather forecast. And again, I can play around with parameters. So for example, I can also add additional parameters like the start date and the end date and run a very similar piece of code only for that time frame. I can then create a data frame based on the result that I get, so that, again, I can use that data frame for my analysis. So that's exactly what I'm doing here, so that in this case, we have the time, the temperature, and the precipitation. So maybe these are the only information that I want to visualize. And in here, in the next code, I can create a simple visualization. So let's also run this piece of code here. And I just have the temperature over time in Istanbul. Now, again, this is a super easy example, but we can go more advanced with some libraries in Python like Plotly and Graph Objects that we can use to create more advanced visualizations. And so this is exactly what I'm doing here. I want to create a line and area chart for the temperature, but also I want to visualize in the same chart the precipitation using bars. And if I run this piece of code here, which is going to take a bit more time to visualize, this is the end result. So similar information, but in this case, I'm showing temperature, precipitation over time in Istanbul in also a bit more interactive way, because I can hover over a specific date and I'm going to see all the information about the temperature, the date, and the precipitation. In orange, you see how the temperature varies over time. And then these blue lines shows me also the precipitations. So again, hopefully this is a very good inspiration for your next projects, because I think, this is definitely super interesting data to analyze, visualize, and so on. And there you have it, a simple tutorial on how to use APIs to collect data from different sort of applications and use it for your data analytics or data science projects. As I mentioned, this is a setup that is immediately making you a standout candidate compared to the majority of people that will get a static data set online. And as I said, if you need support to actually learn data analytics and having someone that is mentoring you and helping you until you land a job in this field, then make sure to check out and apply to my Analytics and Automation Academy. It's a 6-week program where we work on a 101 together. And I can assure you that's the most efficient way for you to get started in this field and actually landing a job. So if you're interested, make sure to check it out at the link in video description. And as always, if you found at least one useful information in this video, make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel so that I can help you even further in the next videos. And I will also leave here in the screen some other videos that I made on very practical end-to-end tutorial using SQL and Python. And well, enjoy the rest of your day. Ciao for now and see you in the next one.